Great to be here on this Thursday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. So much to get to here on the show. Big games again for the Hawks and the Atlanta Braves. Braves against DeGrom. Might they actually be able to get it done? We'll debate that coming up in just a little bit. Also, I hate sounding like BJ Bennett. The biggest game in Hawks history ever coming up tonight. We'll talk about that coming up as well. Mike Conti, 92.9 The Game, the Hawks Radio Network, will join us coming up in the final hour. We'll talk about the Hawks, whether or not they have Trae Young tonight, and much, much more. Also, hour number 2, Rashad Bird, a former Georgia Southern Eagle, will join us on the now cusp, but not the cusp. We're here. Name, image, likeness. What would that have meant to him at Georgia Southern, and what he thinks about this year's edition of the Georgia Southern Eagles. He'll join us coming up hour number 2, and also Dr. Carlo Finlay, Assistant Director of Sports Media at the University of Georgia, and how name, image, likeness might actually come in to play down the road after we get past, 24 hours of this stuff. So that being said, name, image, likeness is here. A lot of folks have talked about it, and already, it was popping off at midnight. Deals in place. I think Jackson State DN Antwan Owens, former Georgia Tech defensive lineman, by the way, transferred to Jacksonville State, was the first to kind of come out with his deal at 12-00-00-00, saying, look, I've signed a deal. And he signed with a Three Kings Grooming, a black-owned hair product shop, to endorse products there. He was the first. Then you've seen some other deals here where guys have come out and signed side deals. I think Bo Nix got a T deal with a sweet tea situation. And the biggest one to date so far, BJ Ben, De'Aaron King, former Houston quarterback, now with Miami. Hurricanes quarterback, got $20,000 deal with a College Hunks Hall and Junk. And that is the biggest one to date, although you hear some folks talking. We are talking about a couple of athletes out there in non-traditional sports who are reportedly working on $1 million deals there for endorsements of products, things of that nature, of use of their name, image, likeness as well. So you are talking about huge deals for certain athletes out there, Ben. And so day one, we've not even made it to 310 yet. And we've seen hundreds and hundreds of athletes sharing out the various deals and things that they've worked out here in just day one with name, image, and likeness in play.
Oh, bravo to these players. Which lets these people know that we are definitely living in a different time when you think about who is going to be able to capitalize on his name and image likeness. These young men have obviously been, keeping up with this thing, and the, Jackson State defensive end, Antwan Owens. Becoming the first player to sign a deal. That's not, to me, that's by design. When you think about this coach, Deion Sanders, I think Deion Sanders played for the Yankees while he was at Florida State. So I think he understood, knows a little bit of something about this. Think of Three Kings Grooming. That just sounds like they get you faded up. A black-owned hair product shop, and De'Aaron King with a $20,000 deal with obviously College Hunks, Hall and Junk, and Bo Nix with Milo's Tea. I've seen BJ and Kevin, Spencer Rattler. He has a logo out now, and I'm just happy for the players because it's bigger than the money they're making. Most people don't know they're a brand until their brand no longer has equity in it, until it no longer can generate anything. Some of these guys are utilizing their brand in a way that may actually have them looking at post-collegiate sports differently, because you're in the business, of this thing. But I'm happy for them. I think that these guys are definitely doing it the right way. As you mentioned, Kevin, I think the ladies are gonna lead the way, because I'm waiting to see these deals come out. They probably saying, well, where the ladies at? Well, we still, it take a little longer to do the $1 million deals. But I'm happy for everybody involved. I'm happy for the players. I think that they're doing a great job of showing that they're not just athletes that just want to have brand equity as it pertains to their sport. I do think that, Kevin, we'll see how much this is a thing, a month from now, as far as like the deals coming out back to back to back. But yeah, the fact that Jackson State defensive end, Antwan Owens is the first, BJ, to actually, ink a deal, shows that Deion knows what he's doing, that Antwan obviously knows what he's doing. And when people be saying, doesn't matter who, I think that Three Kings Grooming lets you know it does not matter who it is. I think money is the same color last time I checked.
Yeah, well said, and congratulations to all the student athletes. And this is a game changer. And I think you look at amateurism, right? And we've talked about it for a couple of months, really a couple of years, about the evolution of amateurism. And we've talked about this and we've speculated, but now we're seeing it, and it's really exciting. It's really captivating to try to follow all of it and to try to figure out kind of all that's happening. And like you said, student athletes from across a wide variety of sports, men, women. And I think we are going to see more headlines in the coming days, in the coming weeks. And it's interesting to watch sort of the market take shape, right? And kind of figure out how these deals are happening, what the value is, how common they're going to be moving forward. But I guess to me, as I've watched this over the last 24 hours and as you've kind of processed this information, and Ben, of course, you lived it, Kevin, we've covered it. I mean, it feels like an updated version of amateurism, right? Like starting today. It feels like amateurism, and I'm not saying that, the entire system has been fixed, but it feels like there's a more updated and reflective version of amateurism today. Do you guys agree?
I do. And amateurism is an ever evolving door that's finally benefiting the people who actually go out there and make it happen. Now, when you see Milo's Tea, that's a national brand that Bo Nix is obviously a part of. A lot of these guys are going to be getting local brands that your local brand gets a chance to kind of shine on the big stage when it's about being creative. And Kevin, something we talked about pre-show. How do you get all the equity out of these players? Because I know that De'Aaron King, signed a $20,000 deal, with the college hunks, Hall and Junk. How do you maintain that relationship? Because the one thing we notice about brands and brand names, they try to maintain a relationship over the years. Some of these guys, De'Aaron King, has obviously have one more year left in school, sticking with the college theme. But I do think that these brands really sat back and said, who can we benefit from the most? How can we benefit from this student athlete the most? And BJ, I know we keep using that word amateurism, but when we get to talking about name and image likeness, we get to talking about Supreme Court hearings and legislation. And, I think the amateurism been dead. And I think because it took this long for the quote NCAA to get in line, they kind of knew what we already knew. The NCAA never really had that much power, Kevin. And now what used to get you in trouble for quote selling your jersey, now jersey's going to the highest bidder.
Yeah, and again, I think this is where it's going to be kind of interesting to see where it goes. I think a lot of folks have a lot of smaller deals that obviously we don't hear about. And I think, BJ, you said once the newness of this kind of wears off, you probably won't hear about a lot of these smaller deals. It's going to be deals that move the needle, i.e. the six-figure deals or things of that nature to pay athletes. You're saying, are there collegiate ones out there? Yes, absolutely. And you say gymnastics could get $1 million. Yes, I mean, if you follow, youth gymnastics, there isn't really outside of Olympic gymnastics. That's about it. So outside of being an Olympic kind of spokesperson, you can do that now in college and be the face for youth gymnastics in America. There are brands, uniform companies, other, associated products that would love to have a couple of faces associated with that nationally. Yes, they could pay out millions of dollars to all of the young, impressionable minds out there in the gymnastics field. And that's just one instance. So I think some of them you won't always see first and foremost. Like, it's not going to be right there in your face. But I do think there are certain athletes that will be able to take what they've done on the court and use their name and their image to make some considerable monies, BJ. Now, do I believe that's going to be the case widespread? No. I don't. I think you're talking about really small deals for a lot of folks, because I think, as have been as long said, in the coming weeks is when a lot of folks are going to find out about brand worth, brand equity, and what your name, image, likeness potentially means to a company. They're like, wait, you mean they only want to use my image if it makes them money? Yes, that is 100% correct. They're not just going to give you $500 because they like you. That may be a byproduct of it, but you are making a partnership to make it work for all parties involved. And so I think, Ben, that's where you really see it, is how many guys end up with smaller deals versus, hey, if we can just focus on a couple of folks and just focus on them pushing our brand, our product, our service, what have you, then maybe you go that way. So I think this is kind of the feeling out process where a lot of guys and girls are going to end up with deals. And in the coming weeks, months, 9 months or so, I think you'll see the market kind of establish itself and companies kind of say, this is what we're willing to do. And maybe this is not an area we're willing to go into in terms of having an athlete endorsement with our product or what have you.
I think, Kevin, the business side of anything is always going to be challenging for the people that's just coming into it, because you thinking that is all you. I mean, you're a part of it. The school you at is a part of it. The position you play is a part of it. And here's another thing. I look at national media. I know people that's in national media. I seen Emmanuel Acho on a national commercial. Emmanuel Acho has not been in the national media that long, but he has the look. Emmanuel Acho is very, very smart, very, very articulate, handsome guy, national commercial. He's a guy that did not make it in the NFL, but now you look at it, he's kind of leading the way as one of the leading faces. So I think time and place is going to be a big part of it, Kevin. And now people are going to be saying, wait a minute, man, I thought all I had to do was go to North Carolina. No, what position you play? Man, I play left tackle. What? I mean, it's so I like the fact this is what you wanted, number one. Now it's the free fall. You get to go out there and see how much money you can generate. So when the coach, don't be like, coach, man, for the first you complain about playing time, now you complain about the money. Man, if you don't get your behind in it, I don't want to hear none of this. And that's what you love about it is, do you sell? I always say, people go, if you're a brand, yeah, and you don't sell, yeah, you're not a brand. Brands sell. So just because you representing one, when you say, Kevin, how do we come up with the money? Well, I mean, if I give him 10, he can make me 50. Because usually I don't want to miss what I gave him. And if I'm stretching out that 10 over 12 months, I'm going to be made 150 by the time it's over with. But I am happy that it is happening. I think that the ladies going to shine much, much brighter than the guys are. I think that now when people start saying, yeah, we might not generate as much money as y'all do in football, but we getting more money for ourselves.
You're speaking to a very targeted audience.
Absolutely.
A lot of times if you're talking about sports-specific endorsement deals that you can now do with college athletes, BJ, and we see this all the time with pro athletes, Bryce Harper with Under Armour. I mean, you can do that now, collegiate softball. Pick your top 1 or 2 collegiate softball players and market game equipment to softball players through them, through various products. I think those are the kind of deals that will kind of move the needle in the public interest, where you're like, hey, Oklahoma made the College World Series, and this young lady pitching for them is, not only is she getting the education, she's playing softball, but she's making, $250,000 to tell folks about, Mizuno gloves or whatever the case may be as part of that deal. So I think that'll just become part of the story that you hear with college athletes. And again, how widespread will it be? I don't know. I think we're about to find out what the marketplace wants to, I don't want to say tolerate. That's probably a bad word, but what the market wants to put itself into in terms of, different relationships and brand building.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned the market, right? That was one of the big questions leading into this. And we got perspectives from a number of different people sort of trying to guess or just flat out saying, hey, we don't know yet what the market sort of value would be. And that's why these early results have been just fascinating, or these early deals to kind of follow. And I think moving forward, we're not going to have a market kind of set where we have an idea of what's to come in the first day. I think this is going to be a kind of a long process, but it's certainly exciting and a real milestone point in the history of amateurism and college athletics.
And we'll continue to watch how this unfolds and plays out. And certainly it's going to be top of a lot of folks' mind. And I would imagine the closer you get to college football kicking off, you may see a elite college football player put something out there that you might see an awful lot of over the course of the college football season when it's all said and done. But we've got more to come here on 3 and Out, including it's never been bigger than it is tonight. We'll break that down next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, hit us up on Twitter as well, at Pigskin Radio. At Pigskin Radio, we are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. And I really hate to say this because it makes me sound, because I hate to say it, but it makes me sound like you, BJ. And that's, we can't have that, obviously, on the show. But it has never been bigger, quantifiably, undeniably, and if whatever, any other words you want to throw out there, never been bigger than this game tonight in Atlanta Hawks history. Never had a bigger game with a chance to take the lead 3-2 over Milwaukee.
Absolutely unbelievable to think about. And don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but if you win tonight, you're a win away from the NBA Finals, which is just incredible and awesome. But you're right. This is a team that has already sort of exceeded its own expectations from a historical standpoint in terms of the franchise. You've gone through sort of what has and hasn't happened over the last 50 years, but now not only are you in the Eastern Conference Finals, which has only happened a couple of times previously as the Atlanta Hawks, you've won a couple of games now. Not just one game, you've won a couple of games, and a chance to maybe take the lead in the series tonight. And that's going to be tough on the road, even with the injury situations for both teams, but just tough on the road to win in the playoffs. I think Milwaukee at last check was a slight favorite, Kevin, gambling favorite. I think a couple of points in favor of the Bucks. But listen, this is a showcase opportunity. I mean, you are what's it in terms of the active playoffs. Obviously, the Suns are in. Congratulations to them. But you are one of two teams playing for one slot in the NBA Finals, and you have the momentum of a win, and a big win, as we talked about a couple of days ago or yesterday, and a big win in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I absolutely agree with you, and I really don't even think there's a counter. This is the biggest game in Hawks history tonight, and I do think in some ways there's a different sort of momentum to it than the previous game because you're coming off of a win, right? You're coming off of a victory, and you played really well, especially late in that game. So the NBA, watching the Hawks, I mean, the NBA potentially looking at a Hawks-Suns NBA Finals if you can get a couple of more wins. But, Ben, the pressure's on. This is as big as it gets as you've had in terms of a stage in franchise history. I know who knows what's happening with Trey. You feel really bad for Giannis and Trey, but the spotlight is on, needless to say.
Yes, and this is bigger than just being the biggest game in Hawks history. I mean, Kevin and BJ, this is the greatest team in Hawks history, regardless of how you look at it, because they've already won more games in the Eastern Conference Finals in the history of the Atlanta Hawks franchise. I love the fact that when people start talking about, what teams did what or who was in the league when you played, well, if the Hawks do go on, that means you would have won the East that had Giannis, that had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and James Harden. And Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, if you include him. I just think that when you start thinking about what this Hawks team had to overcome, this is a team that was supposed to scratch and claw to even be the 8th seed, potentially be the 9th or 10th seed, to have a playing game for the 8th seed. This is a team that the only team left that does not have their head coach they start the season with. They got an interim head coach. This is a team that said that they shouldn't have had the guy in Trae Young leading this team. It should have been Luka Doncic. I just think there's so many storylines. BJ and Kevin, and here they are. We kept talking about the supporting cast of the Hawks. And when you look at what happened in Game 4, you got to feel good about Game 5, because it's not like it's already been ruled out that Giannis is not going to play, and we don't know what's going to happen with Trey. It's probably going to be a game time decision. But Lemon Pepper Lou showed up. Bogdanovich showed up. Clint Capella showed up. Cam Reddish, Cam. Oh, Cam. I mean, the Cam Reddish, not Cam Newton version. So yes, BJ, this is the biggest game in Hawks history. And something Kevin said, when you last game at home, it was a sea of red. It wasn't a sea of, I don't even know what the Milwaukee, what purple, whatever colors, like purple and green. Purple and green. I'm happy for this team because, number one, pro sports teams in the state of Georgia are always battling for something different, bigger than just trying to win. Whatever sports you have, is who's going to be the first, right, to get over that hump. Spoiled by the Braves in the 90s, Dang it, man, Ryan. All you got to do is freaking audible out of the freaking pass. I know we got Atlanta United, Kevin, like not counting that, not doing it. I don't care what nobody said.
Off the board.
So for if you're growing up an Atlanta Hawks fan and you're rooting for them Hawks, you got to feel good about the night. No pressure, Hawks. Just biggest game of your history. Try to go out there and take a 1-game lead against the Giannis-less Milwaukee Bucks tonight.
Yeah, no Giannis tonight. That makes a huge difference, I think, in the way you approach this, even with no Trae Young potentially. We don't know for a fact that he is not in there tonight, BJ. But, I mean, if you look at how it played out post-Giannis the other night, you got to feel good about Atlanta potentially coming into tonight's ball game if you have to play up with everybody else, even if Trae can't go. I mean, this is an opportunity to go on the road and really, really take the series under control, going back to Atlanta, obviously, for a game 6.
Yeah, it's a potential historic moment, tonight if you can win and obviously get within a game of the finals. But we don't know about Trae yet. Ben, you said in the show meeting, I think you're probably right, might be a game time decision with him. But what's amazing is Atlanta has had roster balance and depth throughout the year, and it's been one of the strengths of the team. Trae is a superstar, and we've seen that come to kind of a new level here in the postseason, what he did in the Garden, what he did in Philly, what he's done in this series. It's been remarkable and statistically unparalleled in some respects. But one of the real strengths of the Hawks has been that you've had 5, 6, 7 guys that can get you 15, 20 plus. And especially now with Cam Reddish, back in the mix, you're talking about Bogdanovich coming off of a good game. You're talking about Gallinari being one of the top bench scorers in the NBA. You're talking about John Collins being a star. Wasn't great last time out, but he's a star. You're talking about Clint Capella being a guy that led the league in rebounding during the regular season, had 15 points last time out. You're talking about, Kevin Huerter. You're talking about Lou Williams. So there's great scoring balance. And I think that's something that is going to benefit Atlanta moving forward when you think about maybe not having Trae Young or not having a fully healthy Trae Young. I mean, I think that's something we have to keep in mind. Trae unable to go last time, but even if he is able to go tonight or in future games, what does that mean? I think Kevin mentioned it yesterday. Is that a 70% Trae Young? Is it an 80% Trae Young? Is it a Trae Young that can play 5 to 7 minutes at a time and then he's got to rest that foot? So the depth and balance on this team, especially when it comes to scoring the basketball, is a major asset right now.
The one thing that that's not being talked about enough about the Hawks is they did something in sports that's very, very hard to do. They made believers out of a lot of people. Remember those national analysts? What was it, 15 out of 17 or 13 out of 15? I know it was whatever it was, only 2 picked the Hawks. They're screaming a different tune now. And it's almost like it's even, right? Oh, because everybody's going to say, oh, Milwaukee didn't have Giannis. Well, Atlanta didn't have Trae. And Atlanta got it done. It's hard to get people to believe in you, especially when they want to, they're going to die on that hill of doubt. They're going to die. Nope. I'd rather just stick with it. And if they do win, I'll just say, well, I'll go back to a positive talking point I did probably 3 months ago. But I'm very, very impressed by this Hawks team. When you saw Trae Young on the sideline going crazy, when Clint Capella hitting circuit shots over the back of the backboard, guys was getting up and down the court. Collins had 4 points that you couldn't even tell because he was making his presence felt on the defensive end. I just like the fact that this is a never say die team, a team that should have swept the Knicks, went 7 games, against Philly, and now, dare I say, them Milwaukee Bucks in trouble. And I will say this. If the Atlanta Hawks do win this series, that's not an upset. They just got beat. I mean, I can't stand up. Oh, they got upset. They upset that they lost, but it's not an upset when you're the last. Right now, the last 3 teams standing.
I mean, do you expect Lou Williams to be Lou Williams again in Game 5? I mean, that's one of those things where like you get those performances from your aged veterans every once in a while. It's like, can you count on that again if Trae can't go? I don't know that I am.
I think he's capable of a big night. Yeah, look, he's a proven scorer. I mean, he's been that for years. And the efficiency was what impressed me, Ben, is not only did he have over 20, but what was like 7 of 8 or something like that from the floor, 7 of 9, and had a lot of assists as well, rebounds. So, yes, I think a veteran, a proven playmaker. I'm not saying he goes for 30 tonight. Maybe he does. Hopefully he does. But do I trust Lou Williams to go out there if Trae can't go and produce and get you buckets? Yes.
Lou Williams showed that he can still be a floor general. Bogdanovich went out there and showed that he can still be an impact player. Clint Capella is doing it on both ends of the floor. Cam Reddish, they drafted you to go out there and shoot that three. He was looking good. If Collins can get it together, it could be a very, very tough night for the Bucks. But yes, do I think that Lemon Pepper Lou can go out there and be Lemon Pepper? Yes, I don't need you to give me 30. I just need you to give me quality minutes. He's shown that, and at least now, at least for one night, he's allowed back in whatever strip club. I bet it was Lemon Pepper everywhere in whatever strip club he was at the game 4. Hopefully he's working on an empty stomach here tonight.
We'll see. Again, biggest game in the history of the franchise coming up tonight for the Atlanta Hawks. Speaking of big games, a huge one last night in Atlanta, but can they do it twice in a row? BJ Bennett, maybe the pessimism jar starting to slim down and the optimism jar starting to pop up. We'll get to that next. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you once again. Last night it was amazing for the Atlanta Braves. Did everything but kick the extra point last night. 20 runs on the board, and they beat the Mets 20-2 and scored 20 unanswered runs. BJ, offense really taking off and exploding in a big way. You got to see a center fielder pitching last night. Ozzie Albies taking him deep for a 3-run shot with 7 RBIs and 5 hits in a regulation game. No less. I know you said had that happen before. Remember, the Braves scored 29 a couple years ago against the Marlins, so it might have happened in that ball game. But when you get the offensive vibes going like that, I know you're a big market correction guy, but is that the trend of maybe the offense starting to come around? Even though you have DeGrom tonight, you think this might be possible for the Braves to get it done this evening?
Yeah, I think it's possible potentially, and I don't feel great about that. And you and I have discussed this. I don't even always feel great about the market correction concept because it's hard to stick with and sort of quantify. But, you know, like I told you this morning, man, I said, hey, it was great to see the Braves score 20 runs. And, yeah, Riley and Albies and everybody just out there doing their thing. But sometimes I'm like, are you wasting runs? Because there are only so many runs out there. You know, you don't see seasons where every single guy in the lineup has 130 RBI. There are only so many runs out there, and you don't get any more bonus points for winning 20-2 over 4-2. So I struggle with that. But this is what I'm getting at. And I think this is a fascinating game tonight, Kevin, because you told me this. I didn't even realize this. Moved Drew Smyly back so Ian Anderson can go tonight. And in many respects, Ian Anderson, probably even with Charlie Morton, the way he's been, still probably your ace. I think the ERA 3.42, which is really good for Ian Anderson. So right now you have your best guy against their best guy. You have a lot of momentum. And to your point, I mean, you look at some of these guys. Ozzie Albies is one of the hottest hitters in baseball. Freddie Freeman has picked it back up. He looks like Freddie Freeman. You're starting to see more production in terms of what the expectation was. But this is what I'm asking. If I'm going to be true with kind of, you know, the market's got to correct itself at some point, and Jacob deGrom has like a 0.5 ERA or whatever it is there a chance that the Braves could get 1 or 2 runs, which would be an anomaly statistically, but is there a chance, guys, they could get 1 or 2 runs maybe with the momentum from last night? Maybe the fact that DeGrom's ERA might have to go up some, just you haven't seen anything like that. I mean, he's probably the best pitcher we've, you know, this generation. It's incredible, but maybe could you get 1 or 2 runs? And if so, with Ian Anderson being your guy, could he give you a game where you only give up, you know, 1 run? Or I just think maybe you got a chance, Kevin, with the stars aligning tonight.
Maybe so. I mean, last time he was subhuman or not subhuman, he was human. He gave up 2 whole runs, did Jacob deGrom. So, look, I think the Mets offensively are not a great baseball team. They just, you look at, if they were, you wouldn't have those crazy stats from earlier this year where they're like, DeGrom's drove in more runs than he's allowed, and he was still like 3-2 or something. I mean, it was just insane how he was getting no run support. But I think tonight that's the long play. He's like, you try to get the pitch count up on DeGrom, scratch a run or 2 maybe if you can, and go try to eat off that bullpen, which the Braves obviously can do. And if you can do that, you're talking 3.5 games out, and that's a whole different picture here in early July, heading in towards the All-Star break, about a week and a half to go. Until then, 3.5 games out, you are right there thinking you're a contender, and that's with all the problems, issues, and things that have gone on around this team pretty much the entirety of 2021.
Yeah, but the thing is, so BJ, I mean, what I'm hearing is when I hear market corrections, I'll be thinking that it's got to go, even though it's not going to be 20 runs, you telling me that it could potentially be 6 runs tonight, and Jake deGrom can look a little like Kevin said, he's shown that, you know, he does have some kinks in the armor. Now, I'm pretty sure he's went back to Alfred and kind of got, you know, his suit redone since then. But, I mean, doesn't Ian Anderson deserve one, though? Because Ian Anderson's his debut was against, the Yankees? Then he played the Red Sox. Then got a chance to start, you know, in the NLCS. I mean, DeGrom is DeGrom. And even people that don't know baseball go, who DeGrom? Yeah, that dude that you can't do anything with him. He's literally coming right at Ronald Acuna Jr. like Ronald Acuna can't take him yard. You telling me that last night, 20 runs, you know, and I don't know if Kevin, pretty sure Kevin saw Ronald Acuna Jr. scores his, he hits home runs. He does his little, he got like a little thing he does with Kevin's like, well, listen, to every rule, there's an exception. I ain't worried about running. If you want to bat flip, if you want to stay down the pitcher, he can do all that. I think that BJ, market corrections, less runs, get a dub against DeGrom. Does it shape your optimism moving forward?
Yeah, I think it would be a big statement game, to your point. I think it would be big from a momentum standpoint. And I don't think the Braves are going to get 3-4 runs necessarily on DeGrom, but I think with the momentum from last night, and we've all seen this, right? With the batting order, it's momentum based, right? When a lot of guys it's confidence based. When a lot of guys are struggling, it kind of has an effect throughout the whole lineup, and you see the ebbs and flows of the runs being scored. I think you see it in all sports, but you scored 20 runs last night. You're seeing the ball well. You're swinging the ball, swinging the bat well. I think guys should step up to the plate confidently. And maybe when you see DeGrom, you're like, oh, but is there a chance? Ben, Kev, look. What I'm thinking, get a couple of walks. If you can get some walks, maybe. I know Jacob deGrom has like 9 or something all year. But, if you can get a walk, you can get a big swing from Acuna or Freeman or Albies the way they're swinging. I just think with Anderson on the mound, there's kind of the potential for some confidence there. Normally, even with guys who have been around the game a long time, you're matched up with DeGrom. It's like no chance. And I think in our heart of hearts, we all probably still feel that way. But I'm just looking at it as 20 runs last night. You have your ace on the mound. To Kevin's point, you got a couple of good swings in last time against DeGrom, right? And you're not scoring. You're not going to have 8-9 hits. That's not happening. But is there a chance with all of that kind of coming together, guys, that just maybe you could get 2 or 3, maybe you get 1 or 2 against the bullpen, and that's enough? And Ben, to your point, this is a big game tonight. It's a 2-game swing in the standings either way.
The Braves should be up 2-0 in this series right now. We forget the fact that they was up 3-0 and then ended up losing 4-3. They took out some frustrations last night. DeGrom is DeGrom. You try to find something negative to say about the guy, but it's hard to find something negative. But he can't pitch the whole game. And it's not a doubleheader, so they're going to go past 7 innings. I just think that the Braves frustrate you because they show you, like people go, the Braves scored 21. Yeah, that doesn't happen. The Jaguars didn't score 20 points, but like 4 or 5 games last season. And like Kevin said, they did everything but kick your extra point. It does something for your confidence when Ian Anderson, is on the mound go up against DeGrom. What the Mets have in DeGrom, nobody has in baseball, maybe outside of the Dodgers. And the Braves had their way with them last time I checked. What the Mets lack on offense, the Braves definitely do not. People forget they scoring 20 runs, no Marcell Ozuna. And they still, and I know that they shouldn't have put, I don't know if he was the third baseman in or whoever it was last night. Don't come in here with that weak sauce, as Kevin say, because you leaving the yard with Ozzy. I'm trying to pad my stats. It says home run, in my stat sheet. It don't say who you got it against. So try to get you a big one tonight, Braves, and DeGrom. Hey, man, try to do your best against this guy, because this guy, he says no more. Listen, I'm finna give him that heat, and that's it.
Yeah, look, I think anything you get off DeGrom counted as a plus, but if you could steal this one in the W column tonight, BJ, 3.5 back is more than doable with where you're at in the season right now, and a far cry from where people thought the season was going when you look just a couple of weeks ago with all the issues that they've had on and off the field with this Braves team. We've got more to come. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 now all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us on this Thursday. Of course, big game for the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Can they get it done without Trey? We'll have to wait and see. Braves in action tonight, trying to take a series from the New York Mets. Huge one there. But last night, BJ, College World Series, just been a phenomenal event. If you haven't seen it, 20,000 fans just going ballistic. And Mississippi State beats Vanderbilt, kind of the dynastic program here of the late 20 teens. The Vanderbilt Commodores get beat by Mississippi State, who win the first national championship in anything. And that's kind of, you got to take that back and soak that in. They've been around since like the 1800s and something, right? That's 100 plus years they've been around. They've not won a national championship, not in football, not in basketball, not in baseball, not lawn darts, not anything. And they get it done last night, and yet you had to feel good for those young men last night to cash that in. But what an unbelievable College World Series it was, with Mississippi State cashing it in and really just dominating Vanderbilt in big fashion, including Kumar Rocker, who's been one of the stories of the college baseball season, and they really dominated him last night.
Yeah, Vanderbilt has dominated college baseball. So, to get that championship, to get it against Vanderbilt, very impressive. And you mentioned just the program or the school-wide accomplishment. Mississippi State, you had the stars out. You had a Dak was there. I saw a couple of videos of him. And Mississippi State, look, you come out of the SEC in baseball, you beat Vanderbilt in the championship, very impressive. But I know what Ben was thinking the whole time when you were talking about first national championship and naming off the sports, because we always hear it. You got baseball, you got softball, right? Florida's used to getting some championships. I know you were thinking it, so I'm just saying it for you.
Wait. I mean, Florida, what you mean, the everything school? Because they wanted all and everything? No, I will say this. Vanderbilt is very, when you talk about baseball, that's when they lead. Now, the SEC was dominant this year in college baseball. I know Vanderbilt with the controversy, Kevin, a lot of people wouldn't let that go. The ball don't lie and all these. I don't think the guy was thrown out for the last out, by the way. I think his ump was like, let's get up out of here, man. I mean, but shout out to Mississippi State. I mean, baseball, College World Series is very, very prestigious. When you start talking about the pitching duo that Vanderbilt had, I mean, those guys are going to be headliners when the MLB draft coming up here real soon. I just think that BJ, to be able to, for Dak to be there shows that, number one, he's not separating himself, because he's obviously Dak Prescott, of the Dallas Cowboys. To have some of the stars out there, none bigger than Dak Prescott, to be there for Mississippi State's first got to mean something. But hey, man, shout out to the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Listen, trash talker to trash talker. If I'm a Mississippi State Bulldog, I'm calling the Georgia Bulldogs. Say what? Say something. We're not going to win the national championship in football, no way. But guess what? Y'all ain't either, but we just won that. Shout out to the Mississippi State Bulldogs, man. It's hard to win. It's hard to say you was the best. Your team was the best during your time in college. I never had a chance of winning, a championship in that regard. But shout out to the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They earned it the hard way. And if you could beat Vandy the way in which they beat them, you earned it.
Yeah, going out, got a big national championship off their back. And BJ, I saw the SEC, of course they would do that to pump it up. And the SEC puts out, hey, by the way, now that all the sports are over, we did win 8 national championships in the calendar year. No other conference did that. So SEC, right?
Do you hear the chants, Ben? Are you into the SEC Mississippi State? What, Mississippi State won? So Florida and Georgia can celebrate that, right?
I mean, Florida did win it all in golf. I mean, we won that championship in golf. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out. No, Greg. Yeah, Greg Sankey. With Greg, when they asked Greg Sankey, who's your favorite team in the SEC? He said, I got 14 of them. You know, which that's what he's supposed to say. But no, I don't. Listen, I don't do it during the college football playoff. I don't say, come on, St. Nick. I don't do all that nonsense. If your team, everybody takes on the Georgia Bulldogs mentality.
No,
outside,
it's the SEC, man.
No. I'm going to tell you this.
Back me up. It is.
Hey, you root for your team. That's it. That's the rule. Not, hey, man, how you feel about it? My mom go, you don't root for an SEC team if it ain't Florida? If it ain't Florida, it don't matter. No, I'm not rooting for them. I'm just happy that it was the Bulldogs from Mississippi State and not the Bulldogs from Athens, because I don't want to hit a mouth at all. Just saying.
But yeah, it was fun to watch that last night, because you could tell it meant a lot to a lot of people around that pro. And man, what a fan base there, where baseball is certainly huge, and they were loud and in it from the jump. And you felt a lot of folks really hoping they would close that deal. And I know a lot of anti-Vandy stuff there after people saying, well, they kind of got the no contest into the championship series and all of that. But Mississippi State ends up closing it out. They get it done. We've got so much to get to. Right around the corner, we'll take 3. Busy hour, too, by the way. Rashad Bird, former Georgia Southern Eagle, will join us. And Dr. Carlo Finlay, Assistant Director of Sports Media at the University of Georgia, will join us. How does now name, image, likeness being in place affect student athletes? And with media and social media and things of that nature, what are we looking at in the coming weeks, months, and further out when you're talking about student athletes potentially profiting off name, image, and likeness out there? He'll join us coming up in hour number 2 as well. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Miss any portion of the show, go to espncoastal.com, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or our YouTube page. Get a podcasted version of the show each and every day. Take 3 coming up right around the corner. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you. Hour 2, 3 and out. A lot to get to. Rashad Bird, former Georgia Southern Eagle, will join us. Also, Dr. Carlo Finlay, Assistant Director of Sports Media at the University of Georgia, will join us. We're talking name, image, likeness there now that it is in effect around the country. So looking forward to that conversation as well. Mike Conti will join us in the final hour. We'll get the very latest with Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks as they get ready for the Bucks later tonight in Game 5. But first, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, in honor of NIL, if you were a college athlete or when you were in college and an athlete, BJ, let's you and I enter fantasy land. What sponsor would have gone after you?
Well, I go back to my college days, and agreed. You know, you and I, this is kind of a dream, but I did play a lot of video games, late at night, early in the morning. Stretches where you kind of disappear for a couple of days, and you're playing video games, and you come out, you don't even realize what day of the week it is. So I think for me, PlayStation. I don't know if Xbox was quite out yet when I was in college. Maybe it was, but I'm thinking for me, something that I took up a lot of my day with, quite frankly. And I know you guys have the couple nights a week. You guys still get after it on the PlayStation and the Xbox. So maybe we could work it out still. But for me, I would say PlayStation.
Wow. Well, going after, I would have hoped it would have been like Gatorade, a new era, because my hat addiction and being at the birthplace of Gatorade. But for me, when you had guys like Rex Grossman and big high profile players, Guthries. For those you don't know about the gut box, you got to get there at a certain. I think they used to close earlier than they're supposed to. Them gut box used to hit the spot. I'm just trying to tell you. You should good old, some good old chicken and French fries, late night, and I'm a big candy eater now. And Haribo, the gummies, I wish they would have came out, because people keep saying, well, Ben, you wouldn't have wanted no money. No, I want stuff.
I want the lifetime supply.
Exactly. I want the lifetime supply of Haribo. I want to be able to, let them, turn the light back on at Guthrie's, because I know it ain't closed yet. And maybe some free hats, and and all the Gatorade you can drink, which I was already getting that. So yeah, the gut box. Oh, I know what it was. Oh my goodness. It's a
So now he keeps adding.
Hold on, because this is what it is. Kevin said something about pizza reigned supreme in college. There was a pizza spot called Gumby's, and the sauce used to be really, really sweet. And they actually called one time they actually called up Coach Spurrier and said, hey, you might want to talk to some of them freshmen. Why? Because I don't think they need to be eating pizza, 3 o'clock in the morning. Look, man, it's always so Gumby's, come holler at your boy.
I was going to say, yeah, definitely in college, the late night pizza spot. It's like, are you up late? It's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're really hungry. We still deliver. Hit that up a lot. The pizza spot would have been it for me, man. It's like, hey, it's Friday night. It's 1 a.m. You're almost ready to go home and go to sleep. Before you do that, we will still deliver. Get your late night pizza before you call it a night. I think that'd be good, man. I fit the bill for that. I look like a dude that eats a lot of pizza. It's true.
I would have loved it.
The endorsement, and I probably would have been in my college days. I probably would have been bought off for, as Ben said, just let me have a couple large a week.
Yeah, we said, listen, and just give me my own signature pizza. Like, man, let me get that Kevin Thomas. Man, do Kevin know you ordering this? Man, Kevin sent me. He out in the car right now. Don't go out there. He sleep. You don't let them out to bother him. But yeah, pizza, gummy bears, some chicken and French fries, and something to drink, and a couple of hats, and I'm good. I'm a cheap date. I'm good.
Ben doesn't want much, but he wants it all.
I never listen. I asked. Come on, man. I asked KFC for some chicken. I asked Burger King for some hamburgers, man. Oh, and DQ, if you out there, unlimited soft serve. Oh my God. Oh yeah. Blizzard, come holler at your boy. I would, if I had my own Blizzard, Kevin, I would be the man to this day. You probably would have forgave me for getting college football shut down. The video game. That
might be the one grounds we will let you get retribution for all that. But that being said, take two. Who has to have the biggest game for the Hawks tonight if Trae Young is unable to go again?
Yeah, I think it might be Bogdanovich, and I think it could be John Collins as well. But the only reason I won't say Collins, who is a star and has led this organization for long periods of time in the past, is because he scored 4 points the last time out, and the Hawks won by 20. So even though I don't think that's likely to happen again, you've at least seen Atlanta win big and win comfortably in this series without great scoring production from John Collins. And he was still rebounding the basketball. But to me, I think it's Bogdanovich. When he was struggling, the Hawks offense was struggling. And he's a real streaky shooter. And last time out, obviously in the win a couple of nights ago, he had 20 points and his plus minus was plus 25. So when he was on the floor, Atlanta had a plus 25 scoring margin over Milwaukee. And he's a guy that can stretch the floor, that can space out the floor, can obviously, I think he shot like 12 or 13 threes the other night. He can get into a rhythm, can attack the basket as well. So, yeah, Collins is always an X factor, and he has got to rebound. Like he and Capella, and we saw it the other night where in both games Atlanta has won in this series, they have out-rebounded Milwaukee. That is so vitally important. But I do think I'm looking at it from more of a scoring perspective if in this scenario Trae doesn't go. And I think if Trae's not available, you're going to need 18, 20 plus from Bogdanovich.
For me, it's gonna be the same guy that had a big game in Game 4, and that's gonna be Lou Williams, because Lou Williams, what made him incredible in Game 4 was bigger than the points he scored. He was a distributor. He kept the game in rhythm. He didn't let nothing get. He didn't let the game be too big for him, and he kept everybody kind of ahead of schedule. Sometimes having one guy that's keeping the flow of the game intact is all you really need. Do I need Lou Williams to go out there and give you 30? You would like that, but no. I think just keeping guys in the flow of the game, not letting getting too out of hand. A guy that's kind of been in this situation before, who understands what it takes to win in big time games. I think it's going to be Lou Williams. You couldn't even tell unless you had watched the Hawks play. You couldn't tell that Trae Young wasn't on the court, because Lou Williams kept everybody going. I mean, the defensive end just being active. So for me, it's Lou Williams, because I think that he understands everybody's strengths and weaknesses. He understands how to play the guy's strengths. He understands how to make sure guys don't let the moment get too big for him. And dare I say, they was interviewing him at the Game 4. I would love it to be Collins. I would love it to be Bogdanovich. I would love it to be, Cam Reddish again. But give me the old vet that's making sure them young boys out there, stay up to speed of what's going on.
I think it is John Collins, man. I think you coming off a game where you had 4 points. Yeah, you got some rebounds, but I think he is primed to have a big game tonight. I think he actually needs to. If I have a big game, I mean, on the points front, I think you are going to have an opportunity to carry your team a little bit. And again, I say that because I don't think Lou Williams is going to. I mean, if he does, I'll be happy to say I was wrong then. But I think what you got from Lou Williams is not something you would expect to happen again and again. If it was, we all wouldn't have been surprised at how it turned out with Lou Williams last time out. So we shall see what happens there. I think it is John Collins in a big, big way. Take 3. Today is International Chicken Wing Day. I know we got a lot of chicken wing lovers on the show. Our own Cody Queen is like Mr. Chicken Wing. I think at one point he almost turned into a chicken wing. He was eating so many chicken wings. But describe your perfect chicken wing.
And Ben, I think you and I agree here. Crispy. They got to be crispy. And I think that's an important element, that you get the crunch and you have, that aspect of the wing. I want it to be crispy. And I do like the flats. I didn't used to always be that way, but now if you want to go all flats, I actually prefer those. So I will go flats, crispy. To me, you could go a couple of different ways with the sauces, with the flavors. I'm open-minded there, but I need them crispy, and I like the flats.
They got to be extra, extra crispy. Like they really, I can't do the little soft skin wings. They got to be extra, extra crispy. I love the flats as well. But this is the thing, though. I want the sauce to be so good that you like, do I have to dip it in the ranch? Because some wings without the ranch, it ain't worth it. But as long as they extra, extra crispy, every time you bite into it, you getting that crunch. I mean, I know Kevin told me how he do the flats. He just biting both sides, just getting the meat right there in the middle and tossing it. However you eat it is however you eat it. As long as it's extra, 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 like how you wouldn't want your fried chicken to be. Like you want your fried chicken crispy, but not so crispy to where it's not sabotage the meat. Ain't no juice coming out this chicken. This chicken has been cooked. That's it. But that's how you want your wings. I mean, BJ. I mean, every time I go, I'm like, did you make sure you tell them extra, extra crispy? Like when they getting ready to take it out the fry, just give it 1 more minute, maybe 30 more seconds. Make sure you get that grease off. So extra crispy, extra saucy, and I'm judging it off the last wing. That last wing should have that crunch like the first wing. And if it does, I mean, you're going to get my business. And if it don't, I'm going to be like, I mean, how was the wing? If the wings are good, it shouldn't be no evidence on that plate with bones. And I will say this about National Chicken Wing Day. To you boneless chicken wing people, what's wrong with y'all? There is no such thing as a boneless wing. When people say you want traditional or non-traditional, what the hell? Ain't no non-traditional. What is non-traditional? No. Give me a wing that has a bone in it. What about boneless wings? Those are chicken strips. I don't get. I'm just whatever. It's not a chicken. Listen, have you ever seen a boneless chicken walking around? No. Chicken wings have bones in them. We need to get past that. I'm just saying that to those being, I love boneless wings. I love chicken strips too, because that's what it is. It's not a wingette. It's not a boneless wing. It's a chicken strip. That's what it is. I'm just saying, man. Like, you know what a broken escalator is? The stairs. It's the same thing. I'm just saying, y'all need to stop that nonsense. But yes, super duper fried. I mean, extra, extra crispy. A lot of sauce. And bones in it.
What is the sauce choice?
Oh my good. I like the hot honey barbecue. I like something sweet and something spicy. I like mild. I can't do the hot wings. Like I got to be there to enjoy the wing. I do like a mango habanero. That's I can do that.
You only get one flavor. You and BJ do this every time. It's like, hey,
okay.
You already say, I got this one and I got this one.
Give me.
But I didn't say the potpourri plate. I said you get one.
Give me the hot honey barbecue.
There we go.
And get out the way.
No, but about the hot wings, the hot ones, if I have to sign a waiver before eating this, that's concerning. That's not a good sign.
What's your flavor?
I like the mango habanero that Ben said. That's a good mix of kind of the hot but spicy, but a little sweet as well.
Yeah, I love the drummies more than the flats with the chicken wings. I will say they have to do it a certain way, garlic parmesan, but it can't be like the paste. It's got to be like a river of butter and garlic and like that's when it's good. But if I will say the ones that I've kind of come into that just for the off flavor is like they all have different names for the same thing, but it was like Asian Zing or they call them. Zest or whatever. They all kind of have different names for it, but I like those as well. The Asian wings. That's a good little change of pace from the straight buffalo sauce. Cody Queen, man, he will come in here on some hot wings, like hot buffalo sauce, and he'll be like 3 in, sweating. He's like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have got it that hot, but they're so good. I'm like, dude, you're sweating and breaking out in like a rash. He's like, but they're so good. You know you do this.
I mean, I will tell you what my dad told me about eating hot stuff, but I'll tell you in the break.
That being said, let's take 3. We'll come back. Rashad Bird will join us, former Georgia Southern Eagle, next here on 3 and Out Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us. Our next guest, a second team All Sun Belt Conference in 2020, led the Georgia Southern Eagles with 77 tackles, including 6.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks, 2 interceptions as well. Linebacker Rashad Bird joins us here on 3 and Out. Rashad, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on, and I know obviously collegiate athletics changing so much by the minute. You look at name, image, likeness that just went into effect today. I know you are just recently out of Georgia Southern, but what do you think this means for the guys that are still in college and future athletes with what you're kind of hearing from your former teammates and guys around college?
It's great. I think it's a great opportunity for athletes to learn a different side of life, really. To be able to be an athlete is one thing, but to be able to market yourself, be able to handle deals in a way that, you know, you're dealing with money and be able to know who you can talk to, who can't you talk to is also a great thing. And I've always been the person that thought student athletes should get paid for their image and likeness, of course, just because of the fact, you know, you're putting it on the line, you're getting up at 5 a.m., doing runs and everything like that. So I feel like it's a great thing, but it can also have some bad sides to it as well. I think it's going to be a lot of recruiting is going to be a lot different. And some people might think it's about money. Some athletes might take it a different way. Might go to a different school just because they might have bigger boosters. But, you know, it's all positives and negatives when it comes down to it.
Amateurism is an interesting thing, and we're seeing it change now, be redefined. In your mind, what's next? I mean, we're still trying to kind of figure out name, image, likeness, and maybe there are more developments on that front. But is this a step in the right direction in your mind in terms of updating amateurism, if you will?
I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more teaching involved with the athletes that go on with it. And there's going to be a lot of regulations and stipulations when it comes down to it. And they just need to make sure that they protect the student athletes as much as possible. You know, there can be a lot of risks that come with this. So just be able to educate everyone who's, you know, on the team and be able to tell them, you know, hey, we're bringing this in to teach all about how you can handle when somebody comes and offer you, you know, let's do a commercial, let's get you some merchandise done, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's a lot of college athletes going to be getting paid to do a lot of things. So just being able to be safe and making sure they're on the right track on what they're doing, I think it'll be a great thing in the long run.
And Rashad, even sticking with that education of the athletes, obviously you are a big brand, still are a big brand, because big brands usually play for big brands. But how much of this is going to be focused more on in the off season when you have more free time compared to, you talk about a work week for you. I mean, people forget, football starts when everything else stops, and you are part of the education aspect of it. Then you got to go to football practice. Then you got to go to training table. Then you got to go to tutoring. Then you got to try to study. Then you got to try to start it all over. How much is it going to be when you actually have time to do these name and image likeness deals? Because, you know, throughout the season, free time is not something you get a lot of.
Yeah, of course. I definitely think it's, like I said earlier, with the education of, you know, letting the guys know it's easy to get caught up in everything that you have. And, you know, when you get in the off season, you have a lot more free time. You turn 20-hour weeks during the season to 8-hour weeks. So just being able to, you know, manage your time, having someone there to help guide you through it. I know some guys are mature enough to kind of navigate themselves through the process by themselves. But, you know, not everybody's like that. Everybody needs to be able to have someone they can go to make sure that, you know, keeping everything together. It's easy to, everybody says it's great to have, you know, the name, image, and likeness going on. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, it is a contract. You are going to have to do certain things for whatever company or whatever you're doing. So just being able to make sure you stay in the ranges of, you know, what you're there to do. And, you know, this is a plus to it, but you have to also be able to be mature enough to, you know, have the side of saying, okay, no, I won't be able to do this because I have these obligations as well.
Rashad Bird joining us here, former Georgia Southern Eagle linebacker here on 3 and Out. Obviously, the college football playoff committee moving towards 12 games as well here in the last handful of weeks. And at Georgia Southern, certainly I know people say, hey, in the Sun Belt, hey, we're trying to play for a championship, but Does that maybe mean a little bit more in a couple of years when that field gets expanded to 12 teams about maybe thinking you have a legitimate chance to get in there and try to do it on the field?
Oh yeah, I think it's a great way to show, how the competition is really changing. A lot of people are saying there's a big difference between the P5 and the G5 teams, but when you come down to the nitty gritty, you see a lot of G5 teams coming up in the top 25, beating big teams. And nowadays, there's athletes everywhere. No matter where you go, you're going to find them. And just being able to allow those teams to have that competition to show that they can play on the big stage, I feel like that's going to bring a lot of savviness, a lot of grit from other teams to show that, hey, we're here in these playoffs. We know that we're the underdog. We're going to come out on top. I feel like it's a great way to include everyone. And being able to do that is going to open up a lot of doors, open up a lot of opportunities. And I feel like that's going to allow, even recruits or anyone else to see like, hey, it is nice to go to a P5 school, but these schools over here, they're doing their thing. They're ended up in the playoffs, meeting these teams. Maybe I want to go here. And that's when everything's going to change. Once people see that, it's not really where you go. It's really about, what do you like in the school and, how do they perform?
And when I think about the expanded playoff, I think about games like 2019, you guys play in Minnesota. Obviously, you had 11 tackles, a defensive touchdown, a tackle for loss in that game. And that was a really good Minnesota team that started out 9-0, beat Auburn in the bowl game, was in the top 7 or 8 in the polls. And you guys were right there, a game that was back and forth to the end. How much parity is there in college football today? And will we see that reflected in the playoff?
It's crazy seeing how on any given day, any team can come out and win. With the playoff system, it's going to be the same way. We had that great opportunity to pull it off. Sadly, we didn't. But it just goes to show that, whatever team shows up that day, it is what it is. It's hard to have a bad day in college football because, that bad day can turn into a lot of other negative outcomes. But with the 12-game system, it's a great way to just be able to get those teams out there and see, what each team has to offer, because it's easy to say on paper, maybe we didn't have a chance on paper against Minnesota, but when we came out and played and showed what we could do, we broke it down to the end. So it'll be a great way to get the other teams involved.
And Rashad, I mean, the 2020 college football season is going to go down in history as to me the thing that changed it all. When a hashtag we want to play, just players coming together from all, whether you G5, P5. You guys paving the way from name and image likeness. You look at what's going on in college athletics now with brands being able to be utilized to be able to generate, off your name and image likeness. You and your fellow, college athletes, you guys have everything to do with that. To know that we're going to look back on college athletics as a whole, and we're going to contribute to the 2020 college football season, or really college athletics in the 2020 season, because you guys went out there and did it when essentially the world, definitely America, was shutting down.
Yeah, it's crazy to be a part of history, man. Just being a part, not even, we had the pandemic all of 2020 and going out and playing, we were up there with Bama, we're playing the most games, and that's just something crazy being in the whole pandemic. But just knowing that we were a part of something so great to go ahead and get the ball moving and getting a lot of change happening in the NCAA. It's a great feeling knowing that it's not all about, what are you doing for your, for yourself or for your university. It's about touching others, touching your future, because, if you leave it better in the future, hopefully it'll be better for everyone else. So it was an awesome way to be able to make that impact and being able to, look back and, be able to tell your grandchildren, your children, hey, I was a part of this movement to get you where you are now.
Rashad Bird joining us here on 3 and Out. And Rashad, we're about a month away from fall practice starting. What do you think about your teammates still there at Statesboro as they get ready for the 2021 season? What do you expect out of those guys?
I'm expecting a lot. We have Doug Roos as our offensive coordinator. He did a great job coming in last season towards the end and kind of flipping the switch. And you see, I'm keeping up with the morale of the team, and all these guys are loving that he's changing everything up, is working. Once you get the morale of the team up, it's hard to stop a team that's loving what they're doing. So I'm excited for the season. Yeah, J.D. King coming back. He's coming back strong. I'm hearing he's leading. He's leading while he was hurt, and even while he's coming back, he's pushing those guys. He's coming in first on their conditioning as a guy that's just coming off an injury, and it's just great to see that those leaders on the team is really going to bring up these young guys. And we have a lot of guys on defense that's coming back. You have Todd Bradley. You have Justin Birdsong, Anthony. You also have Randy Wade. Those guys are going to be able to bring, the team together as a whole, bring a lot of experience and be able to bring up the other guys because it's easy to say, hey, as long as we got our starters, we're going to be fine. But, it's really true when they say you're only as strong as your weakest link. You never know what happened during the season, and, next man has to be up regardless. So having those guys there, I'm really excited for them to go ahead and pull it out for this upcoming year. I'm expecting something big from them.
And we're looking forward to that as well. Rashad Bird, former Georgia Southern Eagle, our guest here on a 3 and Out. Rashad, really appreciate you joining us here on the show. Thanks so much.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. Rashad Bird joining us here on 3 and Out. We'll come back. Dr. Carlo Finlay, Assistant Director of Sports Media at Georgia, going to join us, and we'll talk more about this name, image, likeness now that it's here, and what does it mean as we get 4 weeks, 6 months out from this coming into effect. Join us next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Network. Welcome back, 3 and Out here, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad you are with us. Of course, name, image, likeness, all in the news today around college athletics. We're seeing deals left and right. I saw an LSU baseball player signed a deal, BJ Ben, with his parents' company of Cajun seasoning. So he's endorsing his own family's product at this point as a student athlete. So that's something that you might not think about, but now it's perfectly permissible with name, image, likeness. And joining us here to talk more about that from a practical standpoint, Assistant Director of Sports Media at the University of Georgia, Dr. Carlo Finlay, joins us here on 3 and Out. Dr. Finlay, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
And of course, this is a historic day for student athletes across the collegiate spectrum. Obviously, we're just in day one, but how do you see this thing developing as it continues to move forward? Because I would imagine as students find out about the student athletes, everybody thinks they've got a deal waiting for them. But how do you see this thing playing out after we get past, the first 24 hours of this thing?
Yeah, so that's the question. I think what you're looking at right now is a bit of chaos as everything's happening. And I think eventually, with this being sort of a free market, the market should ultimately sort itself out. And, the athletes that are most valuable in the sense of, having a massive digital and social media presence, those folks, I think, will need the biggest deals. Not every athlete is going to be able to make a ton of money off this, but certainly the opportunities are there, and it'll be just fascinating to see how it unfolds, from school to school as well as from sport to sport.
Dr. Finlay, when you talk about a market establishing itself, is that something, how long does that take? Is that a year-long process? Is it a couple of months? Or in this situation, do we just not know yet?
I mean, that's the hard question, is that I think it's going to take a little bit of time because there's so much, with any new sort of revenue stream like this is, there's going to be people jumping all over things, a race to endorse certain athletes to get them to sort of say yes to your product. But ultimately, that's not going to last forever, right? And then it's going to kind of become, maybe if we think about a year or two from now, especially, okay, who are the athletes that are truly noteworthy in the sense that everybody knows them, and who are the ones that maybe aren't quite as popular. So I think I would say you're going to have to get through these, let's assume 2021 is going to still be a little crazy, and then maybe by 2022 it kind of starts to stabilize.
And Dr. Finlay, when we start thinking about like how things are going to be, moving forward as far as like time, because I know throughout the season, time for a student athlete is very, very valuable. I mean, everything is structured from the time you get up to what class you're going to, the training table, to working out. Do you see this potentially becoming a problem from a standpoint of if somebody is contractually obligated to be here at a certain time, or do you see these athletes understanding that, well, we've been acclimated to college long enough to know that while I have an off season, I better utilize all the time I have because I'm sorry, Kirby ain't putting nothing on hold so you can meet your engagement time?
That's going to be something that's going to take a little time to figure out because these athletes already are stretched. Ben, you certainly know that, as far as being a former SEC football player, you're already stretched thin, right? And now suddenly you have this additional obligation. At the same time, it does provide, I think, a level of sort of like professional training in the way of understanding how to balance just one more thing now that you are a commercial figure, and how to think about, okay, I've got, my school obligations, my team, but also some personal financial obligations that I have, and how to balance all that out. So I do think that's tricky. The hope is that the schools themselves can kind of help their athletes with that, help kind of just streamline things for them and make the process go as smoothly as possible for these young men and young women.
Dr. Carlo Finlay, Assistant Director of Sports Media at Georgia, joining us here on 3 and Out. And you look at, obviously, when it comes to media being a big part of student athletes' brands, how do you see that with folks at just in your program, even just sports media, of like potentially your social media can be your brand? And how do you see that with athletes making sure they stay true to themselves, but also know that, hey, once this gets signed on, you also are a brand to a brand at the same time?
So I think young people now who are aspiring athletes, we can even drop it down to the high school level, are going to be thinking about this and thinking day in, day out about how do I make myself a marketable brand, right? What do I do to grow my following? I mean, because if you look at some of the biggest deals from today, look at the twin basketball players from Fresno State, Hannah and Haley Cavender. They have, more than 5 million followers on social platforms, right? That didn't happen overnight. That took time to build up. And so you can imagine athletes in both, the revenue sports like football and men's basketball, but also the non-revenue sports, really thinking strategically about how to develop their brands, how to get a strong digital media presence. And I think there are going to be opportunities for people who want to work in this business who sort of can be experts at sort of helping athletes promote themselves. So I view it as creating a new market opportunities for athletes primarily, but certainly also for folks who can help athletes grow their own brands.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you, Dr. Finlay. Are we going to see kind of a corresponding growth of correlated or kind of paralleled marketing entities that help this whole process grow?
Yes, we're already seeing that pop up. You can think about companies like Open Endorse, influencer that are out there already that have been planning for this. I mean, people have sort of known there's been sort of an element of inevitability with this. And while the NCAA maybe has sort of sat there and not done a whole lot, private businesses have been acting strategically and planning for this. And so now I think they're in a position to act swiftly. And you're seeing a lot of people working with these athletes because it can be a little overwhelming for 18 and 19-year-olds, right? So there's obviously going to be instances where they're working with, whether you want to call it sort of like advisors or marketers or whatever like that. Those are folks that are definitely, there's going to be jobs for that for sure.
And Doc, I mean, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of, you being the assistant director of sports media. Most of these guys, they play a sport and they want to be involved in that sport. They want to end up being, go to the NFL, go to the NBA, be sports agents. How does this make your position different? Because now you talking about understanding how you can be seen digitally. Well, this is what you do every day. How many more guys do you see coming up to you saying, Doc, man, how do I not just build my brand, but kind of have a long-lasting career, after football, after basketball?
So I think, in some ways it takes a little bit of pressure off them in thinking only about, like, how do I get drafted as high as I possibly can? Because now they may be thinking a little more holistically about, okay, what can I do to overall grow my brand as much as possible? So I imagine, I'm lucky that I have a lot of student athletes in one of my classes. And, I expect that this fall when they're in class, I'll have conversations with some of them just about how things have changed so dramatically. Because it's one of those situations where it's new for them, right? And so there's going to be a bunch of people telling them a variety of different things, and they can't exactly go to an older teammate and say, "What'd you do previously?" Because this is brand new, right? So I think we're in uncharted territory, which is what makes this such a historic day.
I was going to say, Dr. Finlay, when you look at to that end, I know the university can't go out and facilitate these things, but what role do you think the university plays in preparing the student athletes for, hey, if you do this, these are going to be the things that come along with it, from financial obligations to how do you protect yourself there, to all kind of, what is the university's kind of role in potentially educating them in this kind of new world of business?
Right. So I think the university strikes sort of a delicate balance. You're right. They can't be out there saying you're going to come here and you're going to X, Y, and Z deal. That's explicitly forbidden. Right. But they need to sort of show that by coming to this university, that there are, many, many opportunities. You can see that happening kind of already in the sense of, I think Nebraska has kind of been at the front end of some of this stuff as far as trying to be a school and an athletics program that is going to be really welcoming to this. What it comes down to ultimately is recruiting, right? It's talent acquisition. So schools like Georgia or Bama or Florida or whatever are not going to want to fall behind one another when it comes to this, right? Their name of the game is attracting the best athletes to come. So I think what they're going to do is basically showcase Georgia or Bama or Florida as a place that you can become the most marketable athlete possible.
In your mind, Dr. Finlay, does today kind of redefine amateurism in some respects?
It's that's tricky. I think that doesn't, because they're not getting paid, for their performance on the field in a direct sense, and they're not obviously being paid by the schools. I think what it ultimately does is puts them on equal playing ground with the rest of students on campus. The way I explained it to my students in class was, prior to this, if I wanted to hire any student to come and be an MC for my 2-year-old son's birthday party, I could do so, and I could pay them, except not the ones who play sports for UGA, right? So now this just makes athletes have the same rights as everyone else, which I think, generally most Americans feel pretty good about. So the more difficult questions are to come in the future if people ever talk about, pay for play or any of that stuff. But I think right now it still maintains what we would think of as amateurism, because you're not being paid to play for a certain team, but it gives them more rights than they had before. And rights are ultimately an important thing.
I know that Florida State partnered with a company I think called Apex to kind of like educate the players. I know you kind of talked about it a little bit. How soon does the University of Georgia, University of Florida, the SEC has not necessarily the same company, but they're partnering with the company, because education is going to be the name of the game. It's one thing to be able to make money off your name and image likeness, but it's another thing to understand the full nuance of it. Correct?
Correct. Absolutely. I mean, it's not. You can't just say, okay, now we're good to go. I'm going to make a bunch of money. Education is crucial. Conversations about we talked about how to brand yourself, but also about financial literacy, how to best save some of this money that you may be now able to make. And so the schools, it's really important that they create an atmosphere that allows these student athletes to earn money in a way that makes sense and that is responsible. And I think that that's going to be a major recruiting tool for these schools, is basically be able to sell that atmosphere to the most talented athletes.
That's a historic day out there across the college landscape, and we're just getting started. Dr. Carlo Finlay, Assistant Director of Sports Media at the University of Georgia, our guest. Dr. Finlay, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. You guys have a good one.
We appreciate it. And again, just the beginning. We haven't even made it through day one, and we're seeing just the impact that it's had across the college landscape already. This is 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you on this Thursday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. I know a lot we've talked about with name, image, and likeness today on the show, but it's certainly shaping the fabric of college athletics by the hour here on this opening day. As we've seen a number of players sign deals, showcase deals. We've seen players on Twitter and social media all day saying, hey, this is my representation firm. I just saw a young man who was the number one player in JUCO basketball. His agency that he signed with putting out, hey, we represent him in all name, image, and likeness deals. And he was the number one player in JUCO and signed with Louisville. And it's going to be fascinating to watch here, BJ, over the next coming months, especially with the lead up to college football, because I think what Ben has said is correct. Look, you get in season, you don't have time to be busting away from practice to go do an Instagram photo shoot, right? You're going to have to get this done in the offseason. But what does this look like in the ramp up to the college football season so that things potentially are in place when football season hits? If you shoot a national commercial, are there 2 or 3 guys that can land a national deal? You got to get those done now. So when college football's here, you start seeing those things everywhere. Those are going to be the kind of deals that will be really, really interesting to see what it comes out, maybe what has staying power and what kind of catches on in terms of athletes that are able to land some of those deals that are going to ultimately become worth noting.
And you're right; it's fascinating. I mean, it really is to watch, and it's historic. It's unprecedented, and I think you're talking about a very fluid situation too, right? Where it's like every day, every hour, even there's more news. So it is absolutely fascinating. Yes.
Fellas, go out there and get that cheese. I'm just happy
Just
for
go
them.
get it.
Yeah, but I will say this. I mean, give college coaches a lot of credit. Their job is to know where you're going to be, when you're going to be there. So you better get every dollar you can get, because like I said, one time I said, Coach, man, I was late because I had to do this photo shoot.
Not my problem.
Now you're on the injury report and you will not be playing. Remember, while you are here first will not be taken away from what you want to benefit from because you are here. But they'll make sure they get that real quick.
Yeah, we got a lot more on that coming. Also, a big game for Atlanta tonight, biggest in franchise history. Mike Conti, the Atlanta Hawks Radio Network, he will join us when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here. Final hour of 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben will look at the Braves tonight against the New York Mets. Obviously, look at name, image, likeness. Who are some guys in the past? I think that's now the discussion. Who would have really cashed in on name, image, likeness had it been around earlier? We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. But it is the biggest game in Hawks history coming up tonight. And joining us here from the Hawks Radio Network, Mike Conti joins us here on the 3 and Out. Mike, welcome to the show. How are you?
It's my pleasure. Good to be with you.
And there's no ifs, ands, or buts because I don't think a team in Atlanta that was named the Hawks has made it this far. Biggest game in Hawks history tonight. What's the latest you could tell us with Trae Young and if we see him out there?
Well, I don't have any inside information on that. Nate McMillan will speak to the media in 2 hours. I would predict that Nate will say that Trae is a game-time decision. Nate typically does not tip his hand too much in those pregame press conferences, and then we'll kind of wait until about 8 o'clock Eastern time when that final injury report comes out. If I were to guess, and I say this just totally based on a gut feeling, no one's told me anything, I'm not a doctor, I haven't talked to a doctor, my guess is that Trae will not play tonight. I don't know how much could change dramatically in 48 hours from Tuesday where he wanted to play, he tried to play, but the pain was just too severe and his mobility was impacted too much. I don't know how that can really change dramatically in such a short span of time. So my gut feeling is that Trae will not play tonight, but I don't know that for sure. We won't know for sure probably for another 3 hours.
Going back to Game 4, obviously Trae was not able to go. How impressive was it to see the rest of the team really play well, get off to a great start, and kind of share the scoring load?
Yeah, it was impressive, but not really surprising. I kind of feel like that's been par for the course this year for this team, and it has been an next man up mentality. The Hawks, among all teams that made it to the playoffs this year, lost more man games to injury than anyone else. So this is nothing new for them. To be without Trae Young is certainly a different story because Trae is just so ball dominant and so involved in every facet of the offense. But you have to really tip your cap to Lou Williams, who found out on rather short notice that he would be starting that game. It was his first career playoff start ever. Been playing in playoff games dating all the way back to 2008. He did a terrific job. I thought Cam Reddish did a terrific job as someone who's barely played at all since February. A real testament to him staying ready, being prepared, and making an immediate impact when he was put in the game in the first quarter. But it really was team effort. The Hawks play a lot differently when Trae is out than when he is in. I feel like more players touch the ball offensively when Trae is not playing, and it's a credit to the Hawks. It's a testament to them that they were moving the ball around cleanly and they were getting very, very good looks at the basket without Trae Young driving that.
And Mike, with so much talk about the Trae Young, and rightfully so, and you mentioned Cam Reddish being able to come in and provide some quality minutes and quality points, Nate McMillan is not being talked about enough. We act as if what the Hawks are doing. They're doing it with like Lloyd Pierce. Being fired halfway during the season. Nate McMillan being able to take over and kind of be able to take the team to new heights. Just talk about his his presence on the team and just how he got those guys to buy in and seems to be paying off now.
Yeah, he's done an incredible job. You're absolutely right. I think. The Hawks are a young team, and young players respond differently to the same message when it's being delivered by a different coach. And for whatever reason, Nate McMillan seems to be getting through to these guys a lot better. The players have talked about how they feel like their roles are more clearly defined, how there's more organization. And then Nate McMillan's just a lot more positive. He's a lot more positive. Sometimes that's what you need to be as a coach of a very young team. I thought in Game 4, McMillan did a really good job of keeping the Milwaukee Bucks off balance with his rotations. When he immediately substituted Chris Dunn and Cam Reddish at the start of the game, you could see the Milwaukee assistant coaches sitting right below us on the bench were scrambling. That was a really nicely executed chess move that caught Milwaukee a little bit off guard. And I thought Nate McMillan kind of emptied the kitchen sink from the standpoint of rotations in building that 20 to 26 point lead that the Hawks were able to hold on to in the second half on Tuesday.
Mike Conti, Hawks Radio Network, joining us here on 3 and Out. And you talk about this run if they have no Trae Young tonight and how they've stepped up. Who do you the guy that kind of takes charge, if you will? Who's that next guy when Trey is out? That kind of it's my team. I'm the guy that can put the team on the back, either from a leadership standpoint or points in the basket.
Yeah, I think from a scoring standpoint, it's probably Bogdanovich, and it's good to see that Bogdanovich appears to be trending in a better direction with that knee issue that he's been dealing with, that knee soreness. You know, if Bogdanovich was 100% healthy, I think there's a chance that he actually would start at point guard, as he was doing in the regular season in games where Trey was out. The fact that Bogdanovich, the three-pointers, looked a little more normal for him, probably a reflection that he's got better lift now coming out of his knees, and that he's just feeling better. He leads the playoffs in steals. I think his defensive game is very much underrated. So it would probably be Bogdanovich from the scoring standpoint. From the leadership standpoint, you know, that might be Lou Williams. It might be Solomon Hill, who doesn't really play a lot, but is just a veteran who was in the NBA Finals last year. It might be Danilo Gallinari. I mean, the Hawks have some veterans who have been in big games before. Even Clint Capella, who's played in a Game 7 of a conference final before. The Hawks have no shortage of veterans who have played a lot of postseason games and have played a lot of big postseason games. And I think it's really up to those veterans with that playoff experience to provide that leadership that you're talking about.
The Hawks have out-rebounded the Bucks in both of their wins. How important is that going to be tonight, just being effective in the paint with rebounds?
Well, it's huge, and with Giannis out, you have to think that's probably going to be a big advantage to the Hawks tonight. I'll be curious to see if Mike Budenholzer tries to play a small lineup, maybe get the Hawks a little bit off balance from that respect, because a smaller lineup would maybe neutralize the role that a Clint Capella or an Onyeka Okongwu would have in this game. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw Milwaukee even at times have Pat Connaughton playing center tonight. I just get the impression that's one of the buttons that Coach Bud can press, but the Hawks did a much, much better job in Game 4, even before Giannis got hurt, of defending the paint, keeping Milwaukee out of the paint, because the first three games of the series, Milwaukee was plus 66 in paint scores, and that was not going to be a sustainable pace for the Hawks if they wanted to win the series.
And Mike, obviously, with the Hawks getting their third ever Eastern Conference Finals, win the other night. I mean, this is history that we watching with a team that doesn't have much history, to look back on. What are we going to remember the most about this team this year? I know it's Trae Young, I know it's Nate McMillan, but regardless of what happens, even though you hoping it ends in a championship, what are we going to remember the most about this young squad?
Well, I think what I'm going to remember the most is that here's an Atlanta team that went into New York City and won a clinch game, and then went to Philadelphia and won a clinch game, and in the first two rounds of the playoffs won 2 road games at New York and 3 road games at Philadelphia in the postseason. Buildings where opposing teams are not supposed to go and win, and usually cities in which teams that have Atlanta on the front of their shirts don't do very well. This team has played with a swagger and I think a little bit of an edge that we haven't seen too frequently from an Atlanta team. And I think that's why the city and the state of Georgia has responded so positively to this Hawks team. It's almost like they're fighting on our behalf for once. And it's been a lot of fun to see. Trey, as you said, obviously is a big, big part of that, probably the focal point of all of it. But this is a group that really likes each other. They've responded well for their head coach, and they're playing their you-know-what's off for the city of Atlanta. And no matter what happens from here, even if they lose tonight and lose again on Saturday, this is the greatest season in Atlanta Hawks history.
It certainly is. And I guess the next, question to that, Mike, would be, is it sustainable? I know, as you said, we saw the great run a few years back when they got there and got swept by Cleveland. Prior to that, I think it was back in the 60s before they had been there. There's not been a franchise that, even with good players, has had a lot of sustained runs of success in the postseason. Is this one, though, going to be different?
Well, I think you said something kind of key there. You said they've had good players, and they haven't been able to sustain it. And I agree. They have had good players, but they haven't really had superstars, other than maybe Dominique. Trae Young's a superstar, and he's a young superstar. Who's probably going to be an Atlanta Hawk for a very long time. I think the Hawks' success in this postseason has kind of disproven this notion that players are not going to want to play with Trae Young. So I think as long as Trey continues to play at the level that he's playing at, maybe even improve, if DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish can continue to, and Kevin Herter, if they can continue to develop the way we've seen, if John Collins is brought back going into restricted free agency, yes, I think this is sustainable because it's a young team that has a lot of chemistry. They have good players and they have a superstar. The Hawks really haven't had that combination since they moved to Atlanta in 1968.
Mike Conti, Atlanta Hawks Radio Network. Hawks and Bucks coming up later tonight. I believe, 8:32, the official tip-off tonight there between the Hawks and the Bucks. Mike, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Take it easy, guys.
Appreciate it. Mike Conti joining us here, Hawks Radio Network. And guys, tonight, as he said, every game's the biggest game in Hawks history from here on out. It's the greatest season in Atlanta Hawks history that they've had. You're rewriting chapters, paragraphs, stories each and every night in Hawks history, no matter good or bad what happens here.
It made a great point, too, about Atlanta's success on the road. You know, it's really hard to win in the playoffs. It's really, really hard to win on the road in the playoffs. And there's been a composure to this team. There's been a confidence to this team, even with the youth at some spots in big spotlight road games. And I think that's been really impressive and really promising when you think about kind of what could happen moving forward. Look, it's going to be tough tonight, and it's going to be tough playing the Bucks on the road, but this team has had a lot of success away from home, and I think that's really telling when you look at a young squad, Ben, to not only win on the road, but win on the road in the playoffs consistently. So I think they should be confident because of that heading into tonight.
Yeah, I agree with Mike when we forget the fact that this team won at Madison Square Garden, went to 7 games and won at Philadelphia, and to see what they're doing right now. Trae Young is a young superstar. You are getting key contributions from guys like Lou Williams, Bogdanovich, and proving his worth. Cam Reddish is showing that, listen, he's not injury prone. I mean, Clint Capella is showing that he can do it on both ends. I'm just excited to see this game tonight because, once again, somebody always say, we always talk about this. You take one player away from a team, what are they? You took Kawhi away from the Clippers, they gone. I mean, AD was hurt with the Lakers, they got put out. You took Trey away, from the Hawks. They tied the series up. We'll see if they can, do it back to back. But I just think that for me, we are watching history. I think we should appreciate it because too often times we get caught up in the stars. I mean, with the superstars and not the stars when it comes to basketball. It's a bunch of stars out there. And I don't know if it's going to be no superstars. Who can have a superstar effort? I put my money on them young Hawks.
We will see tonight if the Hawks can take a 3-2 lead coming back to Atlanta. As he said, probably going to be a game-time decision on Trae Young, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But we do know, BJ, no Giannis tonight, and that could be huge there for the Milwaukee Bucks. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We'll get to the Braves and Hawks here in just a little bit, as both have huge contests tonight. Obviously, the Hawks' biggest game in franchise history. The Braves with a chance to win a series against the Mets, but they'll have to go through Jacob deGrom tonight. Easier said than done to go through deGrom, but could it be possible? I think BJ's feeling a little optimism, dare I say, that it could possibly happen out there as well. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but obviously, name, image, likeness has been all the news and talking points today around college athletics, around college football. So, guys, who are some guys? I'm going to ask you just to do a top 5, because I can't just say who are some guys. You'll just sit here and give me 400 names. Who are some guys that would make the most money, who are obviously not eligible for name, image, likeness, but past college football players? Give me your top 5 guys that would be the biggest earners off name, image, likeness were it a thing while they played.
Wow. And yeah, you're right. You had to give us a list, because a number, because otherwise we would just go. I mean, you could have just in the show meeting naming off so many potential players. And I'll start at 1 for Kevin. I'm going to start at 1 and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But for me, number 1, Tim Tebow. I think you think about Tim Tebow and, the celebrity status. Ben, I know you've said, hey, Tim Tebow is a professional celebrity. Well, he has been. I mean, he was when he started his college career. And I think Tim Tebow is just, quarterback for the Florida Gators. I mean, the championship, the Heisman. For me, Tim Tebow would be number 1. Reggie Bush, number 2 for me. Maybe the most exciting college football player of all time. Championships, trophies, Heisman. You're in LA. You play for one of the most recognizable programs in the history of college football in SC, and just big plays. I mean, Reggie Bush. Number 3, Peyton Manning. I think Peyton Manning, had the advantage of, look, your dad's Archie Manning. You come in and you have immediate success right away. You're a star. I think Peyton Manning would absolutely be up there. Number 4, one of your former teammates, been Vince Young. Vince Young for me, quarterback at Texas. Highlights everywhere, just superstar player, some of the most memorable performances and games in college football history, and, was a really dynamic playmaker as well. And then, trying to go old school a little bit, number 5, I got Herschel Walker, one of the first superstars, I think, that really kind of captivated the country when you think about college football players that became larger than life. So you could go a number of different directions, but I think I would go Tebow 1, Reggie Bush 2, Peyton Manning 3, Vince Young 4, Herschel Walker 5.
I'm actually gonna go from 5 to 1.
Thank you, Ben. That's the way you got to build it up.
I'm gonna do the 5 to 1. My number 5 is Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson won the Heisman, and who was above with that Heisman that year? That would be Randy Moss. That would be the Peyton Manning, and he ended up winning the Heisman. I mean, if you haven't, he was Mr. Ohio and went to Michigan. I'm just saying, the guy won the Heisman. He was about as good as I think he would have benefited tremendously. My number 4, Calvin Johnson. I'm telling you, in Atlanta, Georgia Tech. He still went number 2 overall. He wouldn't have made as much money he made in the NFL. But I'm just saying, to be able to take advantage of a market in Atlanta, to where we're talking about big name, some of the biggest organizations in the country are right there on campus or right down the road from campus. So for me, number 4, Calvin Johnson. My number 3, and BJ, and a guy that we don't appreciate, Julius Peppers. I'm telling people, man, he did it in football and basketball. I mean, think about that. He was doing it. He was, one of the leading sackers, and then in the Sweet 16, in basketball for me, Julius Peppers. My number 2, I know people don't remember. How soon they forget a guy that was a huge. Tyrann Mathieu was a huge brand at LSU. I'm telling you, for 2 years, there wasn't a player more talked about than him. Once again, Heisman Trophy finalist. And and for me, a guy that still lives on today. Look, Brian Bosworth, the Boz. He at Oklahoma. I don't know if he's the greatest Oklahoma student of all time. He's the most famous, though. He got to be. When you look at, and he's known, and he was a guy that was actually branding stuff when he was in college with the shirts, the mohawk. So my 5 again. Calvin Johnson. Obviously Charles Woodson, Julius Peppers, Tyrann Mathieu, and Brian Bosworth, a.k.a. the Boz, could have made some serious cheese.
Yeah, and my number 5 was Brian Bosworth. I thought, man, I might be the only one old enough to actually remember Brian Bosworth when he played, but as Ben said, actually got suspended, was on the sideline wearing branded shirts and things of that nature. And a lot of the guys I put on my list were huge before social media and instant, you just go on your phone and see it, right? The guys on my list, everybody knew without having to go to their phone, without having to go to a Twitter or Facebook that didn't even exist. in those moments. I had Brian Bosworth, number 5. My number 4, Herschel Walker. I think from the moment he stepped on campus, he runs over dude at Tennessee, Bill Bates. Was it Bill Bates? Yeah, Bill Bates at Tennessee runs him over, and it goes from there. I think he would have just cashed it huge on that. My number 3, of course, is my favorite guy of all time, Bo Jackson. Football, baseball, I think you probably, if the idea would have come, could have seen the Bo Knows kind of stuff come to the forefront, maybe even sooner if you had the opportunity to do some of that stuff. Because, again, Bo Knows was all about Bo and Bo specifically, and that's name, that's image, that's likeness, has nothing to do with Auburn or anything, and he could have been absolutely huge. My number 2 was Peyton Manning. Again, Peyton Manning was famous for a lot of football fans before he got to Tennessee. This is the son of Archie Manning. He didn't go to Ole Miss. He went to Tennessee to pave his own path, and from the time he stepped on, people were like, Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning, like just all over it. I think he would have cashed it huge, and obviously we've seen how he's turned into a spokesman for a number of things post-college career. I think he could have handled, being a spokesman while he was in college at the same time. And my number 1 was like you, BJ, it's Tim Tebow, because I don't think we have seen, and I don't know that we will see, maybe I'm wrong, an athlete like Tim Tebow. And I say that not because he was the best quarterback that ever graced the football field, but Tim Tebow was, for this purpose, captivated people that didn't even like football. You tuned in to see what Tim Tebow was going to do. I don't even like football, but I'm rooting for that guy, right? I want that guy to win, and he has a message that resonates with me, and it just seemed like, love him or hate him, it's one of those all-encompassing things. Why are you watching a Florida game, man? I love Tim Tebow. Why are you watching a Florida game? Man, I cannot stand Tim Tebow, and I hope he loses. But you're watching. You are there. You are following Tim Tebow, and it followed him to the NFL. I think Tebow, BJ, would have been a guy that, and again, you think national deals. How much could Tim Tebow have made in the offseason doing a speaking tour in college, which he's doing now anyways? Some of those things that you talk about guys are doing now, he could have just been doing in college. I think Tebow would have been a guy that could have really cashed in huge like no other from a name, image, likeness standpoint, because people didn't care about Tim Tebow as a Florida Gator. They just gravitated to Tim Tebow, the dude, and I think that would have been a huge win for him if name, image, likeness were possible.
Well, and you think about Tim Tebow even now, right? I mean, how many other fourth string, potential even maybe fourth string tight ends have we talked about? Tim Tebow might not even make the Jacksonville Jaguars, and if he does, he's probably not going to be a starter. He's playing a position he's never played. I mean, if he makes the team, it's going to be a situation where he's not in there, very often, I don't think. And he's one of the more recognizable players on the Jaguars, and he may not even make the team. And, national media, local media have spent days, weeks talking about his football career, and he hasn't played football in 7-8 years. So, yeah, to me, when I think, great names, there are so many guys that are marketable and, have the huge brand. But, yeah, when I think about number 1, for me, even over a guy like Reggie Bush or Peyton Manning, I think it's Tim Tebow.
Yeah, and certain guys, they are big brands. Certain guys are big names. I think Tim Tebow accomplishes all of those things because some you said, Kevin, he's developed that love-hate. Like, love him or hate him, but everybody's watching, and he's polarizing away from what he does. Like people like, that's Tim Tebow. You ever seen him play in Florida? Nope. You ever seen him play for Denver? Nope. Well, what about in New England? Nope. What about Philly? Nope. What did you see him at? Oh, I saw what he did, for underprivileged kids. I saw what he did when he was speaking at this event. I saw him in the Philippines. It's just, I think what Tim Tebow has done, somebody told Tim Tebow, they're either going to love you for everything you are or nothing at all. But either way, they're going to have to pay for that. And I think now is Tim Tebow is a brand that most everybody that's playing with him right now has never seen him, maybe even seen him play, but they heard of him. But now they're like, oh, that's Tim Tebow. Or this is how you win a one-name superstar. LeBron, Giannis, AD, or whatever, CP3, Tebow. And he's just as famous as any of those dudes. So, yeah, they still making money off him right now. Make no mistake about it. Because it was like, why did it take Florida so long to put out the statues? They was like, well, we want to talk with Tebow first. Like, man, how you feel about the statue? He's like, well, you going to put the other guys up there? Yeah, so Warfel, Spurrier, Hey, what can I say, man? When Tim Tebow speak, everybody listen. And dare I say, man, he makes a lot of money when he opens up his mouth. So shout out to Tim Tebow.
Yeah, and again, I think that's the possibility. And I kind of my guys that I put out there, I tried to think like pre-social media era, because these were guys that obviously had no boost from just casual people looking on their phone. These guys were famous because they were good at what they did, and they could also get people to pay attention regardless, right? I mean, Herschel Walker, you were watching whether you like Georgia or not, right? Bo Jackson, football, baseball. He was a guy that in college you started to pay attention to whether you liked Auburn or not. I mean, the Boz and Bo had a brand rivalry before they even went to the NFL. And then Bo runs him over on Monday night. And well, that was the end of the Boz. So, I mean, I think that, but that shows you that there were guys in the past that I think really, if this were in place, BJ, would have just been absolutely huge, given their opportunities to go out and do it, because they were that big of a superstar in a time where being a superstar was difficult because, again, you didn't have 6 different social media avenues to get you famous. You didn't have a lot of the other things you had out there that some of these athletes do now to kind of push their brand, push their narratives, if you will.
Yeah, the Bo Jackson one's good. You know, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker. You think about Dion. I mean, guys like Ben, the one name, you know, whether it's Tebow, Herschel, right? I mean, Bo, and you had the Bo knows stuff. It's amazing to think about, you know, what would have been, what could have been when you think about just the huge brands. That's an interesting point, Kevin, too, that now, you know, social media is such a big part of it. When you think about, you know, Herschel Walker or the Boz or Bo Jackson, you know, they were superstars without that digital reach, so to speak, without that digital platform. And I think those were guys that, you know, everybody tuned in to see, everybody tuned in to watch. So yeah, really interesting. And you can make a case for so many players.
Yeah, certainly. And again, I think a lot of guys, I've seen a number of guys already on Twitter. BJ, I don't know, Ben, you've probably seen this as well, where former players are responding to name, image, likeness tweets like, that should have been me. Like, I could have done that. Like, why did they, you know, I could have got that money when I was in college there as well. So I think they're having fun with it, even if they're like, man, about a decade too late on the name, image, likeness stuff. We got more to come. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. 3 and Out on this Thursday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Hawks tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. We talked to Mike Conti early. Biggest game in Hawks history. 2 games apiece. We don't know if Trae Young's going to be there and able to play. We do know Giannis is out, BJ. So does that make you feel better about, hey, if Trae has to wait a couple more days, it's fine with no Giannis? Or are you like, hey, let's try to take control of this thing if Trae can go and really put the pressure on the Bucks?
I mean, I think you do what you can. I mean, look, and what I mean by that is I don't think you can let sort of circumstances completely dictate your game plan. You're in the Eastern Conference Finals. You're 2 wins away from the NBA Finals potentially. This is going to be a tough game. I know Giannis is out, and I hate that. You hate to see Giannis injured, Trae injured, all these guys. I mean, the injuries have been one of the leading themes, unfortunately, of the postseason. But this is going to be a tough game. You're going to be on the road. You're facing a team. I mean, much like the Hawks got kind of the collective effort in Game 4. Don't you guys kind of expect that from the Bucks in Game 5, where when they found out Trae was out, you had Atlanta really come out with a kind of cohesive, balanced effort where it was, Lou Williams, Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, Gallinari, Bogdanovich. It was a real balanced effort. And on paper, I think Atlanta has more balance and depth than Milwaukee, but I think especially at home, kind of having a sense of desperation to a certain extent with the series being tied, I think Milwaukee's going to come out really early, playing with great conviction, attacking the basket. You heard Mike Conti say maybe they go with a small lineup and try to run, get out on the wings, spread the floor. I think you're going to see Milwaukee play really well, quite frankly. Now, as the game goes on, can your depth wear down your opponent? I think that's the key question. And I still go back to a couple of things. And, Trae or no Trae, you got to rebound. You got to rebound. The 2 games you've won, you've out-rebounded Milwaukee. And Ben, you made the point earlier in the week, offensive rebounds, man, such a big factor, especially in big games. And then you got to play defense. And you did a really good job defensively in Game 4. One of the best defensive efforts we've seen this postseason by anybody. So if Trae's out there, that's such a lift. Obviously, he's one of the best players in the NBA, but I think that's just an uplifting thing to have Trae out there. If he can't go, guys, like you said, Ben, step up, shoulder the responsibility, share it, embrace it. And I think Atlanta did that in Game 4, but especially just not knowing what's happening with Trae Young. I look at rebounding and I look at team defense tonight as big keys, but I expect the Bucks to come out and play well.
I expect the Bucks to play well, but I do hope that Lou Will and those guys be telling Trae, we got it, man. Like, because we need you as healthy as possible, for the games moving forward. There's going to be a Game 6 no matter what. We rather have the healthiest Trae you possibly can. We just proved that we can go out here and beat this team without you. And are we a good counterpuncher? I believe that Milwaukee's going to, come out and try to punch Atlanta right in the mouth. Can you counterpunch? Can you take a punch and punch back? Can you be able to not be a first half team? Can you be the Hawks team that never say die mentality, that go into the second half and say, look, we're going to make it a 4-quarter game? If you're a Lou Williams, can you go out there and be a floor general like you showed in Game 4 tonight? If you John Collins, are you finally saying, look, man, I owe this team one. We're good enough to win without me playing well, but how much better are we when I am playing well? If you Clint Capella, put on a face mask, man. If you're getting elbowed in the nose, put on a face mask for one game, get back out there. Bogdanovich, keep doing what you're doing. Cam Reddish, be too young to understand the magnitude of the situation. That's how he played in Game 4. He just out there shooting ill-advised threes, but as long as they going in, man, that's what you're here for. And if you Nate McMillan, tell those guys to go out there and play loose. I mean, you've earned this spot. Hopefully there is no more, the Bucks fans are saying, dude, this team is good enough to beat us. Yeah. I mean, this team beat y'all when y'all had Giannis. Game 1. Now, Game 2 and Game 3, that's a little bit different. But for me, just go out there and do what you've been doing. Sometimes the game plan is already set. It's not about trying to figure them out. The Bucks are trying to figure the Hawks out. How do we figure these guys out? Because Cam Reddish came out of nowhere. You wasn't expecting him to be able to, and Cam Reddish production can't be the reason why Collins don't have to play well. Collins got to, go out there and get on the boards. Him and Clint Capella, I was told the law officers of Capella, and Collins got to be open tonight, on the offensive side, offensive rebounding and defensive rebounding, and just go out there and play loose. I think too often the times that my coaches say overcoaching is wasting time. Too much information is not going to help you in this situation. You know how to shoot, you know how to rebound, you know how to get back on defense, you know how to be in them 2-3 zones. It's just go out there and get it done. And Lemon Pepper Lou, you got to put on a great Trae Young impersonation, because for me, Kevin, if Lemon Pepper could be Lemon Pepper, hey man, hopefully the rest of the Hawks can bring that sauce.
He can be garlic parmesan tonight.
And listen, deep fried Lemon Pepper tonight. That's what I'm looking forward to.
It is National Wing Day, but no, I look at Lou Williams, and again, this is not to down his game, BJ, but I think what you saw in Game 4 was Lou Williams step up, take on a big role, and usually when you see veteran players kind of step up and have a game like that, when they don't normally, you would say, okay, the likelihood of him just coming out and balling like that again, maybe not so much. Either Milwaukee's going to adjust. Obviously, if Trae Young can't go, they'll see some of that and adjust. Or just simple look, that's not the kind of player he's been for most of the season. He can do it in spurts, but maybe not consistently. That would be my concern going into tonight for Lou Williams, thinking, hey, he's going to be the same Lou Williams we saw in Game 4, and we can count on him to fill it up out there.
Well, he's a proven playmaker, and he was extraordinary last time out. But I do think, you have to look at a balanced effort. I think that's the key in every respect. And, somebody we haven't talked about a lot today, and Kevin, to your point of can you get scoring from other places, Atlanta won Game 4 comfortably, scored over 100 points. Not only did Trae Young not play, John Collins scored 4 points. And I understand some of this series he's been limited by foul trouble and has still done a nice job clearly on the boards and had a great performance early in the series. But think about this. I mean, you had the balance from everybody last time out. What if John Collins can give you 25 tonight? And he's certainly capable of that. I mean, we've seen that. He's been the star of this team for stretches at a time, and real versatile guy. Obviously has added a 3-point shot to his game, plays well on the block. I think John Collins could be the real X factor. And Ben, you're right. You're going to need him to rebound. And if the Milwaukee Bucks do go small, you look at Collins and say, hey man, who out here can guard you? I mean, you're a guy that can get in the paint, that can maneuver. You have a nice touch. You can spread the floor and shoot if you need to. He's got a really good touch from the outside. But yes, you obviously look at Gallinari and Bogdanovich and Williams and Herter. But in terms of scoring production in the paint, and that's not really what Clint Capella does. He's more of a putback guy and, of course, a rim protector and a rebounder. But I think tonight might be the night where John Collins could go for 20, go for 25, and that would be a major boost given that you didn't have that last time out.
If I'm Nate McMillan, I mean, I heard the coach do this one time, and I thought it was brilliant. He told his teammates, he told his team, he said, when I say 3, I want you guys to say your name as loud as possible. You get the 3, everybody say their name. He said, you know what else you get a chance to be? You get a chance to be champions. He says, go out there and introduce yourself. Like, to me, man, I'm telling you, these moments are rare. Now, I know you still got to go to a Game 6, potential Game 7, but go out there and introduce yourself to the Bucks, because who we were in Game 4 is not who we are in Game 5. Like, they think, I mean, we got to be able to slow him down. Okay, if they slow down Cam Reddish, if they slow down Lou, can Collins step up? Can Herter step up? And to me, that's what makes sports. Can you do it consistently? Now, they haven't been asked to do it because Trae's been there. Well, no trick or Trae.
We don't know that.
As of right now, we don't know that. But the best thing as a teammate, I can tell a hurt teammate, I got you. Man, we got you. Because that takes the pressure off of Trae. And if Trae can get another game's rest and a healthy Trae in Game 6 and no Giannis in Game 6, even if Giannis, can miraculously play, that's gonna favor Atlanta way more. So yeah, I just think to go out there and introduce yourself not just to the Bucks but to the world, to put everybody on notice. Say, look, man, this ain't your father's Hawks team or whatever. However the phrase goes, go out there and be yourself, have fun. You have nothing. You want to win the game, but you really have nothing to lose at this point. Just go out there and prove it one more game to get to really put the pressure on the Bucks in Game 6.
We will see tonight which Hawks team comes out there and shows up. If it goes up 3-2, BJ, are you prepared to say the Atlanta Hawks one win away from the NBA final? I mean, Atlanta Hawks NBA final sounds like you came and talked to me and were like, hey, I played some 2K last night. I got the Hawks to the finals. Not reality, not real life, but here they are.
Well, no, I mean, here's what I would kind of compare it to, Kevin, because we've talked about this, right, with the college football playoff and the name, image, likeness stuff, is it's happened so fast that you kind of went from, wait a second, we were like speculating about this and now it's here. that's kind of how I look at the Hawks, where they were playing better at the end of the regular season, and you were like, oh man, they could make the playoffs. And now you're sitting here looking around going, wait. We're on the verge potentially of the NBA Finals. Like, it's happened so fast that it's almost hard to believe and hard to process, hard to explain. But it's been amazing. It's been incredible. It's been, as Mike said, I mean, the best team in Hawks history, and the most important game ever for the Hawks is tonight, no doubt.
And if you get there, you just got to keep Chris Paul from getting on your nerves. Easier said than done. Right? He likes to get under people's skin. But we'll come back. We got more to come. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hawks tonight, biggest game in franchise history. Braves tonight, pretty darn big game for them as well. As you got DeGrom tonight. BJ's actually feeling like more optimistic than he normally does, which is to say not very much, but still a little bit out there. You said, hey, look, there's a possibility the Mets don't hit. You get Ian Anderson. You're talking about trying to win maybe a 2-1 ball game, right? Instead of like, don't look at it and say you got to win 7-6. No, you need to win a 2-1 ball game, right? To try to get over on DeGrom.
Yeah, you had an offense that scored 20 last night. I think you're confident at the plate, and maybe that carries over a little bit to today. And Ian Anderson, the Braves moved him into this spot to have a matchup with DeGrom, and Anderson's probably been your best pitcher. So you feel like perhaps he could limit a Mets offense that hasn't been great to maybe a run or two. And now I'm not talking about the bullpen, but then offensively, if you can carry just a little bit of that momentum over, and of course you're not going to get 8-9 hits. We know that. But could you get a hit and a blast? Could you get a walk and maybe a double? Kevin, I don't know. I mean, Jacob DeGrom is like the best I've ever seen, but you kind of think it might be hard to maintain a 0.5 ERA the entire season. Like, could, dare I say it, a run or two of a market correction be on the horizon? So yeah, look, make him work, run the count up. Go out there and I think be patient. And if you can get a couple of good swings, maybe Ian Anderson can give you a start to kind of balance that out. But it's a big game tonight. It's a 2-game swing, obviously, in the standings, and I think you feel a lot different down 3.5 games compared to 5.5 games.
Yes, and BJ, with the mark correction, I hope it does come against Jake DeGrom, but against Jake DeGrom, make him look human. And I look at going up against Jake DeGrom is how I feel like when Kevin be talking about the Braves for the All-Star game. Give yourself a chance. Like, look, don't give yourself a chance after the All-Star game to be able to get in for that stretch run, try to win the NL East with DeGrom. Just don't let it be. Look, please don't let it. Because the good thing about the Jake DeGrom, he can't really count on his team for offense. But look, just don't be out. If you can get a run or two, Ian Anderson get to go out there and do his best Jake DeGrom impression. Because I ain't never seen nothing like DeGrom. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, if he's the barometer, my goodness. I thought that the best I would ever see is Clayton Kershaw in my lifetime is good, and he is incredible. What DeGrom is doing, even if he had a bad game, like I still ain't give up a hit all season. In the majors, yes, like my ERA is like point. That's crazy, but yeah. If any team can expose a great pitcher, I would think it would be this lineup, but I want to see it to believe it.
Yeah, I think you go back. I think Tim Keefe, the lowest ERA in a season. I know, BJ, you remember him. 0.86 for the season. Of course, he did that in 1880. So it's been a hot minute. I think DeGrom had a bad outing last night. His ERA, BJ, is up to 0.6 something. So
wow.
He has exploded into ridiculous territory where you may want to skip a start because he's losing it a little bit. No, but maybe a market correction coming where you can get 1 or 2 runs, which would raise his ERA to like 0.7. But you can get a couple of runs, and that might be enough if Ian Anderson comes out and shows out in a big way. Appreciate all the folks joining us on the show today. Rashad Bird, former Georgia Southern Eagle, Dr. Carlo Finlay from University of Georgia, Assistant Director of Sports Media, Mike Conti with the Hawks Radio Network. If you missed any of those folks, ESPNCoastal.com, Apple Podcasts, our YouTube page as well. Get a podcast version of 3 and Out. See you tomorrow.